According to Kremlin's propaganda, Russian army for the last 7 days destroyed 3 NATOs and 4 Zelenskys. Well, this is a joke, but not for Russian propagandists. They work 24/7 just to make the whole world believe they're not losing. But spoiler, they are losing. Welcome to Fake Check, and welcome my co-host, Ruslan Deynychenko, who is the co-founder at StopFake. And now we together gonna debunk the Russian myths. Hello and welcome to Spotlight Ukraine.
Hello.
So we picked 3 fake cases, and now we're gonna debunk them right now, one after another. And the first case. Russian media reports that Ukrainian servicemen could not achieve even minimum results in mastering Challenger 2 tanks while training in the United Kingdom. The Kremlin propagandist cited The Guardian and the alleged instructor, who's not even a real person. What else have Russian so-called journalists come up with? See you next.
Gazeta.ru, Russian news site, cited John Butler, one of the British instructors who allegedly critically assessed the successes of the Ukrainian military.
Military instructor John Butler said that Ukrainian soldiers were dismissive of training. He added that many fled and refused to return to their homeland. Earlier, The Guardian wrote that Ukrainian troops returned home after Challenger 2 tank training in the UK.
The media refers to the Guardian article dated March 27th. However, the information is completely opposite to the news posted in the article.
The crews received training that included instructions about how to command, drive and work together as a Challenger 2 tank crew and effectively identify and engage targets, the Ministry of Defense said.
There is nothing about the Ukrainian military failed to score a minimum result in the mastering of Challenger 2 tanks. Moreover, British instructor John Butler, like his commands, was completely invented.
So here we go again, the famous game World of Tanks. So why are Russian propagandists trying to portray the Ukrainian military servicemen as totally incapable of mastering tank training?
Well, we think that the primary audience for this fake is British American taxpayers. We know that this fake was translated to English and was distributed through social platforms who targeted, as I said, Americans and British taxpayers. And the main message to them was, why should we spend so much money to teach Ukrainian military personnel if they are not motivated? And so they try to ruin our cooperation with Great Britain, with the United States, with countries who provide us with military assistance. But the truth is the opposite. We know that American military commanders and British military commanders say that Ukrainian soldiers are very, very highly motivated, and they learn everything they need much faster than expected. And another thing, we see how Russians use British media as a source of information. They just try to persuade their own population and other audiences that this information is reliable, from a reliable source of information. They very often use this approach when they try to sell some wild fakes.
Thank you. And now let's go further to the next case. And now we're going to talk about the nuclear escalation. So here's the quote: nuclear escalation and a new round of aggression. This is how the Russian media covered the sending of depleted uranium shells from the United Kingdom to Ukraine. So the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs called the use of such ammunition, here you go, the manifestation of genocide. Because, another quote, everyone who lives in this territory stays there and stays in the nearest areas receives an appropriate dose of radiation. What is true about this story? Let's find out.
Putin, Russia will be forced to respond to weapons with a nuclear component. Russia's foreign ministry, Britain's delivery of uranium shells to the armed forces of Ukraine will be a new round of aggression. Russian foreign ministry called a provocation the decision of Britain to deliver shells with depleted uranium to Ukraine.
In response to the accusations of the Russian side, the British Ministry of Defense emphasized that depleted uranium is a standard component and has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. Depleted uranium has been used in armor-piercing projectiles for decades.
Russia knows it, but is deliberately trying to disinform. Independent research by scientists from groups such as the Royal Society has assessed that any impact to personal health and the environment from the use of depleted uranium munitions is likely to be low, the spokesperson of the British Ministry of Defense added.
The International Atomic Energy Agency, United Nations Environment Programme and other international organizations in their studies jointly concluded that there is no evidence of a risk to the environment and health from the potential spread of depleted uranium.
So as we see, the depleted uranium has no connection with the real nuclear threat. But after all we've seen, why does Russia is inventing information every single week on the weekly basis, trying to put the threat into a new step of escalation?
You're absolutely right. Every time Russia wants to raise stakes, they use nuclear threats, they use nuclear rhetoric like this. And of course, they want to show Ukrainians, to show Russians that so-called collective West does not care about Ukraine. They don't care about Ukraine, and all these munitions will spoil Ukrainian lands and will harm Ukrainian people. But the truth is that Russians, they're just afraid that Western countries provide Ukraine with modern equipment, military equipment, with modern weapons, and all these weapons they kill a lot of Russians, and they destroy Russian military equipment, which is not so modern, which is not so powerful, which is not so precise.
And I think, well, basically that's because also about the Chernobyl tragedy that happened like in 1986, and our generation, we still remember that tragedy, and they're trying to force that the kind of pain, telling about the nuclear escalation, about all the Ukrainians that we're not even bothered in what they're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Ukrainians, they still remember nuclear catastrophe in Chernobyl and everything that have these words, nuclear or any other nuclear materials. We suspect that it's very harmful. But
yeah,
again,
painful.
Yeah, it is harmful. First of all, it is harmful for Russian invaders and Russian aggression army.
Okay, and let's get to the third case this week, and this is my favorite one. So, the Russian media reported on the destruction of the NATO center in Ukraine, citing the Greek portal. At the same time, this Greek portal cited the Russian sources, where the information actually came from. Let's see right now.
Российская газета and other Kremlin-aligned media suddenly paid attention to the old news of the Greek resource ProNews, published on March the 12th, entitled "The Terrible Hit of the Russian Supersonic Missile Kinzhal at a depth of 130 meters on the NATO command center in Ukraine. Dozens of dead NATO and Ukrainian officers."
Dozens of foreign officers were killed during an attack by hypersonic Kinzhal missiles on the joint Ukrainian-NATO Command and Communication Center, the Greek portal ProNews reports. According to journalists, the attack was carried out on March 9th, allegedly in response to an attack by Ukrainian saboteurs on Russian Bryansk region, Российская газета writes.
The source cited by the pro-Kremlin media is questionable. It covers alleged brilliant victories of the Russian army in Ukraine. There you can also find such sensations as the news about the rapid secession of Florida from the United States in response to the prosecution of Donald Trump. Moreover, the source of pro-news itself looks even more doubtful because the media refers to Russians. And even the Russian Ministry of Defense did not report any strikes on NATO centers.
So, why should the Russian media quote the foreign sources and especially like the Greek portal?
Russian propaganda machine wants to create an impression that this is a reliable source of information. This is not a Russian source of information, because we all know, and all people in Ukraine, in the world know that Russian propaganda lies all the time. So they create this kind of information and quoting kind of foreign sources. And of course, Russia invested a lot of money to create a myth that they have a wonderful weapons that cannot be compared with anything in the world, so-called Wunderwaffe. And they need to create an impression that their army is still powerful, and not all these billions of dollars that were invested in Russian army, they were stolen by corrupt Russian generals.
And moreover, the Greek portal is the Greek media, and the Greece is one of the countries of NATO, and this is a quite good source.
Well, yes, and of course they, in this fake, they say that they destroyed dozens of military personnel from NATO countries, from Great Britain, from Poland. They want to show their own population that they fight not with Ukraine, but they fight with 50 countries who support Ukraine, with the whole NATO. That is why there are no victories for Russian army. That is why they fail all the times. They need to explain to their own population why they have not achieved anything in Ukraine.
What a great job you have, actually. I'm a bit jealous about you right now. But still, thank you so much for your job and for your attitude, and see you next week. Ruslan Deynychenko, the co-founder of StopFake, was the guest and co-host of Fake Check at Spotlight Ukraine. Thank you one more time. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments, contact us via email.